This letter was sent in by our friend Craig Soma. It's from Valentine's Day, 1988. Valentine's Day ended in tragedy Wednesday for a Lakeshore Craft family when two young girls, Cami M. Moran, 7, and Nicole R. Moran, age 4, died from head injuries following a head-on collision on Lakewood Road near the Lake Goodwin store. The sisters' father, Michael W. Moran, 28, was driving his daughters in a 1968 VW Bug westbound on Lakewood Road at 5 p.m. February 14th, when the car was struck by a 1966 GMC pickup truck driven by Daniel Brisbane, 30, of Arlington, according to the State Patrol. The truck crossed over the center line and hit the Moran car, said the State Patrolman. Brisbane was not wearing a seatbelt, said the spokesman. He was transported to Everett General Hospital, where he was treated for a lacerated arm. Mr. Moran was injured critically and is slowly recovering from many broken bones, hip, pelvis, arm, and leg. A family friend, Paulie Bustad, said he is alert, did not suffer serious head injuries, and is expected to recover from the extensive body damage he received. The spokesman said it is not known whether the occupants in Moran car were wearing seatbelts. The Moran daughters suffered massive head injuries, and they were airlifted to Harborview Hospital in Seattle, where they died. The mother, Lori Moran, was not in the car. Bustad said a Moran family fund has been set up at the Pioneer Bank at Smoky Point, and their donations are urged, welcome, and much needed to help with costs incurred by the family as a result of the accident. From 1988.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and when I was 14 years old, I lost somebody very special to me. She was my Aunt Tammy. She was more like a mom. I was very close with her, and she was out with some friends at a bar in Hazeldale, and they were drinking, and she decided that they wanted to go to another bar in downtown Vancouver. And so they left together and were driving down Highway 99, and there was a parked semi-truck trailer on the side of the road, and it was foggy, and the person driving, her name is Mary, I don't know what happened, but she obviously didn't see the truck, and my aunt's side of the car went underneath the semi-truck trailer, and she was killed on impact. She was 32 years old, and she had 2 young daughters that she was leaving behind, and a husband. And Mary is fine. She's out walking around and doing whatever she wants to do, but my aunt is gone, dead and buried. And it has had a huge impact on our family for many years. Especially her daughters and me and my grandma. She was the only girl out of 4 kids, and it's just she was kind of the heart of the family, so her death took a huge hit to our family. And a lot of my family blamed Mary. Of course she was to blame, but it was also my Aunt Tammy who decided to get into the car with a drunk driver, and probably just didn't think that it was going to be her last time. But it just goes to show you how suddenly they can be gone in a second, and that people should not drink and drive, because you're not only hurting yourself, you could hurt somebody else. You could take away a mother, a sister, a daughter, an aunt, a grandma, even a dad, a brother, a son. So just, if you're gonna drink responsibly, and Use your brain before you get into the vehicle. If you even feel the slightest bit intoxicated or disoriented, do not get in the car and drive.
Hello, and thanks for tuning into Funkshop TV. You're watching this right here at funkshoptv.com or fvtv11.org on the YouTube channel. This episode is going to be a little different, as you can probably already tell. It's taken me a long time to kind of have the guts to do this. Yesterday, I should have celebrated a birthday, but instead, I did what I could to think about somebody and to live my life the way that she'd want me to. So this episode is to honor my sister. She was killed almost 13 years ago in a drunk driving incident. I personally refuse to call it an accident, and if anybody calls anything that's drunk driving related an accident to me, I'll be the first one to correct them. Before we get into the show, I'm still going to do the regular stuff like we always do. We have to announce some upcoming events. This is Justin Marshall. In case you don't know, I am Biggs. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Sean Rainey's in the back room. He put together all the video footage that you're going to see throughout the show. So I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you. This has been, like I said, it's been a tough episode. So, Justin, you doing okay? I'll get through this. You want to run down the upcoming events so we can get into the show?
All right, so Friday, July 10th, we got Oregon Summer Jam. Well, I guess we don't have it, but it's going on. July 18th, Cruising the Gut. We're going to be down in a parking lot across the street from Malibu's.
In that area.
Yeah, in that area. We're going to be playing some music, so if you guys are down there cruising around, walking around, come by, say hi. Like I said, we're going to be playing some music. We'll see what we can do about getting some food and shit there. Sorry. Friday, July 24th, Biggs is going to be at Puff's Pub out in Beaverton.
Gresham. It's all right.
It's hot in here today.
It is hot in here.
Saturday, July 25th is the Fireball Party and Rodeo After Party at CHAG in Ilwaco, Washington. Also, September 11th and 12th, we'll be at CHAG playing music for the Rod Run weekend. And, of course, every Thursday, Biggs and I are going to be at Q Nightclub.
Classic one. We're right here.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to... The classic one.
Starting next Friday.
Yeah.
Classic one will be at Los Dos No. 2 Cantina in Washougal every Friday night. So if you're in the Camas Washougal area, support your Funkshop DJs because Funkshop DJs love you. Shouts out to A-Train and Dirty and Metaphor and Remix, Saint, Phonic, Whiplash, Mafia, Biggs, Casper. Did I miss anybody? Who?
Mike Jones.
Oh, Mike Jones. Sorry, Mike. My bad. Mike Jones. So once again, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube pages, Funkshop TV and FVTV Stream, so you can check out every episode of Funkshop. Not every episode is as serious as this one. We crack a lot of jokes and do a lot of laughing. This episode, we're not. We're going to take it a little seriously. So thanks for watching. We're going to go into some more video clips. When we come back, we'll be talking with Josh Warbus, who was a first responder and worked with the EMT and fire department. So we're going to hear from his point of view on drinking and driving. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This letter was sent in by our friend Colleen a few days ago. Exactly 2 today, my Uncle Wayne McCormick was taken from my family by a man who I will never know. On June 18, 2013, Mark Thomas made a decision to go to drug and alcohol treatment in Astoria, Washington. It was a choice that changed my life forever. He came to Portland first, where he consumed large amounts of alcohol, pot, meth, Xanax, and other drugs to get his one last time in before turning his life around and become a productive member of society. Instead of that outcome, he will live the rest of his life in pain and agony, and my family will always feel the pain of losing one of the best men to walk the face of this earth. My Uncle Wayne, to describe him in short, was the most gentle bear you'd ever meet. I've got so many memories of him, but my favorite one is seeing him walk through the door of my wedding. He was very tall and handsome. He had a joyful spirit that was contagious. You couldn't help but become happy around him. On the day of his untimely death, you can imagine the pain knowing I'll never see his smile again. Around 7:45 on June 18th, Mark left Portland and headed to treatment. He put his car in cruise control so that his speed didn't go up and down, causing the cops to stop him again for drunk driving. He then passed out behind the wheel and crossed the center lane going head-on with my uncle. My uncle died upon impact, and Mark lived. It was all over the news. Anger is the feeling that you'd think would come over me, and yes, it was. But then the tears I cried went from my uncle to the man that killed him. My uncle will be in peace forever, whereas this killer will suffer daily. In the end, Mark was injured so badly that his court date went from August 14th to November. He wasn't able to go to court for months after the accident. My aunt went to court on that date and asked the judge for a lesser sentence. Because my uncle would have wanted that, that's the kind of man he was. She also told Mark and the judge she wants to pay for him to go to treatment. Who does that? My Uncle Wayne does. So he was given 5 years prison for manslaughter and his second DUI. My Uncle Wayne is looking down on this earth with that smile on his face because he knows his killer is going to get the help he needs. That's what my Uncle Wayne wanted.
So I got a DUI a little over 3 years ago now. I wanted to let you guys know how it kind of impacted my life and the people around me too. I spent about 24 hours in Clark County Jail. Yeah, it's not the worst place in the world, but it's certainly not, Best Western or anything. It's not a place that I choose to go back, that's for sure. I spent a total of about 24 hours in Clark County Jail, and it's not the worst place in the world, but it's definitely not the best. I lost my license for 90 days, but because I wasn't employed at the time, I had to wait almost 3 years to start paying it off. It went to a collections agency, which I'm sure some people might know as Alliance One. I had to wait 3 years for gainful employment. They don't let you start paying it off until you've shown that you have been employed for a while and that you can actually start paying it off to be able to reinstate your license. So currently it is still under suspension, and I'm not proud of that because it's taken 3 years worth of, asking for rides and taking the bus and riding my bike. I even bought a skateboard last summer, I think. I bought a skateboard. Yeah, it's really cool to be 27 and riding your skateboard to the park to go hang out. I mean, I can't put my kids on the back of a skateboard, and that's impeded me a lot too with being able to be around my children and see them as often as I should be able to. I can't take them anywhere. I have to rely on rides for that as well. And while most people are, very nice about handing out rides, especially when you have money, that's always the thing you gotta have. So apparently now I'm employed and I'm able to pay for some of my friends and my boyfriend's gas money, but not having anything, ass, gas, grass. There's nothing that I had to offer anybody for some time. I had to attend a victims panel, which was awful. in every sense. That cost me $75, which I also had to be employed to take as well. $75 is a lot of money for a class, and that's only part of getting your license back. The victims panel showed a whole bunch of really gross videos and stuff. I'm sure I deserved it, driving drunk. You don't really see what you can do, what you could have done to people until it's put right in front of you. And you realize that you made a really, really bad, selfish decision by driving under the influence. And you put yourself and a lot of people in danger. And that class, also a lady spoke about losing her daughter and how you see those the signs on the side of the freeway, rest in peace, so-and-so, don't drive drunk. Those are real signs from real people who did exist, and they ceased to exist because people like to drink and drive and make mistakes. It's not a drunk driving accident. It's something that happened. So that was $75 that I had to spend, and my time, and I could have been working that day, actually. I owe over $2,000 worth of fines, court things, and if you put that amount of money in your face at one time, it seems extremely like something that you can never take care of. But now I'm paying off the $125 a month to Alliance One, and the court will get their money for all the time that I was there. I also had to pay, I think, $100 a day when I was in jail, and I got a bill for that after. So that's also very nice. And if you don't pay that, you go back to jail too. I decided that it was okay to drink a whole bottle of vodka and try to go drive downtown. I ended up on the train tracks. I was high-centered on the train tracks, and I stopped train traffic for, I think, about an hour while they were getting me out of the car and providing services to my dumbass. I'm glad there was no video of that. Not everybody drives in the train tracks and gets high-centered. Like I said, I made a decision that night to put the keys in the car after I had drank an insane amount of alcohol. And I decided that me getting somewhere was way more important than the lives and the safety of others, including myself. All in all, it's not worth it. It's really easy to call a cab. It's really easy to get a ride on Uber. It's easy to stay where you're at if you're somewhere and you don't have to drive. I will now have to have a blow and go on my car for, I think, a year now. And I haven't even thought of installing that yet. That's another, I don't know, upwards of $500 for installation. And then however much it is to maintain it a month, and that's blowing into your car every time you get into it, at stoplights, everything. It's super embarrassing. It's not something that I want to live with, but it's just something that I'm going to have to do. I may drink again. I'm in drug and alcohol treatment right now, and it's super not fun as well. I was going 3 times a week, and now I go twice a week. I've graduated upwards from climbing the ladder at what is basically an outpatient treatment. I have to complete that as well. In order to get my license, I have to be in compliance with the program for a certain amount of time. And after I do that, they will also send it to the courts that it's okay for my license to be reinstated. So there's so many things going on at once, and you have to pay all of it off at once, and it's really time consuming. And I always say that I had more money when I didn't have a job than when I do, because I have to pay an extravagant amount of money to the state for my mistake, and it keeps you in the system for quite a while. And I grew up seeing people that were stuck in the system in juvenile, and it's followed them up to their adult life. And now I'm 27, almost 28, and I haven't been able to drive for 3 years. But it gets better after a while. But the thing that doesn't get better is families of people who have been affected by drunk driving. I can move on. I can get in my car and blow in my little deal and be just fine. But it won't make it okay for anybody to ever drink and drive. So know that I'm safe and that I won't do it. But just make the good decision to not drink and drive and be safe.
What's happening? Welcome back. Thanks for watching Funkshop TV. Those are just a few stories that were sent in by some of our viewers and friends. We're trying to really hit home how important it is to drive responsibly. I don't care if you go out and drink. I don't care if you have a good time. Just be responsible about it. Have a designated driver when you go. Call a cab. Phone a friend. Any real friend is going to be willing to pick you up no matter what time it is. I know I've done it countless times. And I can honestly say I have never in my life driven intoxicated, and I never will. So, we've got a few announcements to make, and then we're going to get into our first interview, our only interview tonight. Justin, what's up? We got to give some shout-outs?
Yeah. No, definitely, but what Biggs was just saying, if you're at a club or at a place that we're at and you've been drinking, ask us for a ride. You know, I'm the one driving, so I don't drink. A lot of people most of the time just, why don't you drink? I'm like, you need to have fun. No, having fun for me is making sure everybody else is having fun and being safe. So I can definitely say, before I met Biggs, I was drinking and driving all the damn time. I was just one of the lucky ones that didn't get in trouble, that didn't hurt somebody. So, I mean, I hate myself for doing all that shit, but, after I met Biggs and he, hearing his story about his sister, it really changed shit for me. So don't, if you're at a place where we're playing, we're hanging out, you need a ride, ask us. Don't be shy. Don't be scared. A couple quick shout outs to the other shows on FBTV. Underground, Busting Fear, Bartending 101. Shout out to the Putty family, the whole Mike and the C-Hag crew. Also, shout out to Free Agents, Adam McGarry, SOP Entertainment, Northwest Battle League.
Word.
Funkshop DJs, FVTV stream, FVTV11.org.
.org. You talked about the other shows?
Yeah, I said.
Okay, sorry. I'm a little spacey. So you might have to bear with me through the rest of this episode because I'm going to get emotional. So if you don't want to see a grown man cry, go ahead and turn it off now. Sitting next to me is our guest tonight, Josh Warbis. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah.
Warbis. Yeah. I always wondered.
It's all good. How you doing, bud?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Hey, not a problem. Thank you for having me on.
So Josh is a EMT or firefighter? What was your actual classification?
First responder, firefighter, IV tech.
Okay.
What that is basically is firefighter, and then an IV tech is somebody that's able to push meds. It's not an EMT or a paramedic.
Okay.
That's usually who's on the ambulance type stuff. But a first responder, like through the fire department wise, is that if we're driving like an engine or a squad, rescue unit, stuff like that, these are the first people that arrive on scene prior to paramedics.
Right.
Depending on what station and where it's at. Sometimes medics arrive before you do. A lot of times, the station and stuff that I was at, we're so rural out in Clark County, District 1 at that time, and now it's called East County Fire District. A lot of districts now are mended into one. The paramedics can get there before us, but a lot of times we'll be tapped out, what's called tap out. When somebody calls 911, say you call 911 for an emergency, Justin fell down. like he does sometimes.
I might have tripped him, but
Might have, but say he got hurt, what they'll do is they'll tap out, say a rescue rig or an engine, and then an ambulance and stuff, and depending on who gets there first. But a first responder is to make sure that figure out what's on the scene, and then go from there. Assess the scene, and then assess the patient if there's a patient, and then go from there.
Okay. How long did you work with the rescue service?
I worked after high school about 4.5 years. I was a cadet during my senior year, so about 2 years through a cadet, and then went off and did other things, and then came back. I wanted to be actually in law enforcement, and found out that wasn't my niche. I kind of wanted to be more hands-on type deal. So the fire department opportunity actually came around. The battalion chief at my station found me. Actually, we're on a bowling league together. And he comes up and he says, "Hey," he says, "what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, kind of in and out." And he says, "We're still looking for, volunteers if you want to come down." And the station I was at is 90% of the people are volunteers. And the captains and the chief.
Unfortunately, that's a lot of stations across the country now.
A lot, yeah.
Funding and budgets have been cut so much that...
Absolutely.
It sucks. It's sad.
It does, but to me personally, to be part of that organization wasn't for the pay.
Right.
It wasn't for anything like that. It was because I like to help people. And it didn't matter if it was, the whole, firefighter rescue the cat out of the tree and or rescuing somebody from a house fire.
Do they still rescue cats out of trees?
They actually we still do get
Really?
calls. It doesn't go through 911 sometimes. A lot of times they'll just come to the station, but we have had a couple of cat in the trees. Literally,
Wow.
Probably when I first started as a volunteer.
That's almost comforting to know that innocence is still part of society.
And it was funny because we got there and it was a bobcat. It wasn't a cat. It was a bobcat. And it's like, you don't see a lot of bobcats out in the rural area and stuff, and it was eating their chickens and we're like, this is more like for the police. We don't got guns. If this thing comes down, we're gonna hit it with a hose. So yeah, it was quite interesting. That was my very first cat in the tree call.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to apologize to our sound tech. Drop D's gonna have to bear with me because I've got a cold and I'm coughing a lot, so he's probably trying to figure out how to keep it balanced. So in your time working with the rescue service, how many drunk driving related incidents do you think that you responded to? You said about 4 years?
Yeah, I couldn't even, well over hundreds.
In 4 years?
Oh yeah.
There were that many drunk driving wrecks that you responded to?
There's drunk related accidents. There's several.
Wow.
It is very high. There's a lot that definitely isn't televised. I mean, the big accidents stuff, of course, are
right.
publicized or whatever. But I mean,
Offender
anywhere
isn't gonna
from
make the news.
a guy driving into a ditch, drunk-related accidents. There are several.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And I've worked in bars my whole life, and it used to be easy, but over the last 13 years, it's been really tough to watch people drink and have a good time, knowing that they're going to get in their car and drive away. And there have been times I've physically pulled people out of their cars and taken their keys and thrown them across the parking lot. I didn't even know who they were. It bothers me so much. What do you think is your worst experience as far as dealing with drinking and driving?
Probably the aftermath. When we get a call, and for an example, what's called an MVA, it's a multi-vehicle accident, more than one vehicle in an accident or whatever, and you don't know actually the whole story until you even get on scene. And sometimes you don't even know what the story is until it actually starts developing once you start evaluating what's on scene, It's the aftermath of knowing that it probably could have been prevented. But when you get on scene and you see the carnage, or you see anything that can happen in a split second. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. Somebody, not paying attention, just like the cell phone thing. It's almost as bad as drunk driving because you're distracted. Somebody that swerves into another lane or like that and hits a minivan or hits somebody or whatever, somebody on the bicycle, like these guys that have been, that hit on the bicycles and stuff lately. Mind you, they might have not been drunk, but it's still the distraction. The toughest thing is probably dealing with the aftermath of, the cleanup and everything else and seeing what could have been prevented. It's definitely hard to when you get a tap out and stuff, and you don't know. Somebody's calling because they're panicking. Maybe it's the victim. Maybe it's a bystander that's just passed by or something like that, and they're screaming, "Oh my God, you gotta help! Gotta help! Gotta help!"
Right.
We don't get that call. 911 does, and then 911 just dispatches us or whatever and says, "Okay, hey, look, this is what we have. This is the address." And when you go
They
there,
just give you the raw detail.
right? When you get there, then you gotta assess everything. You gotta make sure people are calm. You gotta make sure the victim's okay. You gotta, attend to them and make sure that these people that are panicking, that are safe also while trying to, treat a victim. That's the biggest, hardest part is to deal with that, especially, if it's a family member.
Right. Now, how long have you and I known each other?
A couple days now.
Couple days.
We've known each other for quite a while. Yeah.
And it wasn't until last year we were talking about a drunk. I don't even remember how the conversation came up.
People were drinking after the episode.
Yeah.
So you were on the episode in season 1,
Mm-hmm.
and people were drinking, and
We're actually out in front of your house.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And,
I remember where we were at, but how?
And I think what happened is you're talking about I think doing this show and trying to put something together or whatever like that. And I think somewhere along the line something came about, and you said something about your sister being out in Washougal and the gentleman that was with her. And
You
I
don't have
said,
to call him a gentleman. I'm gonna try to keep it politically correct.
I know. And I understand. I really do.
I know. I'm just.
That's where I believe the conversation got into, and then I was like, well, hey, I was working for the fire department at that time, and this is what happened. And you're like, well, that was my sister, and it just was a big whirlwind, and
Right, and that's
we
when-
talked a little bit more about it and got a little bit more in depth, and
So you were one of the first people on the scene.
I was me and actually a cadet were the very first people on scene after dispatch in the squad.
Okay.
And
I think I recorded a clip talking about what had happened, but what did you see from your point of view?
well, when we got tapped out, when we got dispatched out, it was for a vehicle and a tree. Was the very first initial tap out. Once we started rolling, a couple minutes later, dispatch went ahead and updated the information, stated that it was a vehicle in the water by the Big 80 off of Washougal River Road. I believe it's mile marker 12 or something
About
like that, or 8.
Yeah.
So when we arrived on scene, nobody was on scene. We just had the somewhat of area of where this vehicle could be. So we didn't see no skid marks at the time when we came around the corner. What we did see is actually a headlight shining up. Just happened to be glanced off of the water. It was very, very dark. I believe it was 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Right.
And so it was very dark.
November 23rd, 2002.
Yeah.
So obviously it was late November. It was cold.
Very cold. Water was very, very cold. Very, very fast. Moving very, very fast. So when we got on scene, we looked down the embankment. It's about 75 feet down, and it was almost a straight down cliff. Where the vehicle had went, it was almost kind of a miracle on how they went down. It was in between two oak trees, just barely enough to fit, and they went down that way down the embankment.
Yeah.
We didn't know that there was any victims and stuff yet, so our initial, deal was go ahead and assess the scene, make sure if there's any victims on the road, on the, on the side of the cliff or whatever. Went ahead and put our spotlights and stuff down to see if we can see anybody. Second vehicle, second rescue rig from Skamania actually County came up, also with our district, and Washougal came up to assist. And at that time, State Patrol and Skamania County Sheriffs and stuff arrived.
Now I know for probably a week after that wreck, there were a lot of people that drove up there because a lot of people wanted to see that, trying to make sense of it.
Absolutely.
And it really did look like. How did you pick that spot to go off the road?
Right. It's on a straight stretch too.
It's on It's on a straight
that's the
stretch,
oddest
well
thing.
before it curves.
Well before.
And you just happen to pick a spot where there's no tree. It didn't hit any trees either.
Didn't hit nothing.
So
Yeah.
it was like it was a clear opening. Just happened to be that particular spot. And it created a lot of anger. A lot of people were mad, and there was a lot of speculation that It might have been intentional, but who knows? So after you guys found the truck, then what happened?
Well, after we found the truck, other rescue units and stuff arrived. We went ahead and rappelled down to the vehicle. At that time, again, we were still looking for, at least a driver. Part of the cab and part of the front end of the truck and stuff were outside the water. At that time, we were feeling around, couldn't feel anything, so dive teams went ahead and went down past the eddy, went actually downstream to find out maybe a body had came and floated down that way.
Okay.
Through that time, it was probably within 20, 30 minutes or so, our information and stuff with State Patrol and Skamania County Sheriff's Department, I believe also with Clark County Sheriff's Department, had got word from a passerby that they had actually picked up who they believe maybe been the driver. I believe it actually was the caller that called in. Drove
one of the callers.
Yeah, drove the gentleman to his house, allowed law enforcement know about it. They actually went to the house and found out that there was actually a second victim, a young female. They radioed back to us, then that turned in now to more of a search. Now we have a possible another, second victim. Don't know where they're at. Either still, in the truck or actually down the river. So second dive team and stuff went down and started looking for it. We probably had about 30 people, from first responders to firefighters to everything, looking for victims.
Wow.
It was a very, very intense hunt. One, it was cold. Water was rushing very, very fast. The water itself wasn't really deep, but it was really cold. About an hour and a half into the rescue, we finally had got enough winches and pull cables and stuff to actually upright the truck to kind of bring it up a little bit. And that's when we saw the second victim. And it was a young female, your sister, come to find out, and was at that time what we call DOA, dead on arrival.
Mom, I know you're watching, and I'm sorry. I know it hurts.
Yeah, it sucks. It's when you get into the fire department and stuff, and I'm sorry, definitely for your loss. It was very emotional and stuff for a lot of firefighters. For us, and I'm sure it's definitely emotional and stuff for you guys. There's, out of the years and stuff that I've been a firefighter, been on scene first or scene, 6 or something like that, and having to deal with stuff, this is probably one of the hardest I've had to take. They actually brought in crisis team to help some of the firefighters because it was very emotional. But when we did pull her from the vehicle, she did look very, very peaceful. She looked very, very beautiful.
That doesn't surprise me. I was told by undisclosed sources that really all that needed to be done was somebody undoing a seatbelt or giving her the ability to stand up, and she would have been able to live through it. You think that was true?
I don't know what you want me to say. in my professional opinion, I'm sure there's a lot of things that could have been done that should have been done differently in a professional standpoint. Yes, I believe that if the gentleman would have spent a little bit more time, I'm sure being drunk and being scared and everything else or whatever, a lot of things happen through your mind. But yes, I believe that if they took a little bit of more time, either probably could have been rescued or would have been a lot easier for us because maybe we could have seen her.
Right. I guess my point is if that situation happened and the person wasn't drunk, do you think she would have lived?
It is a good possibility.
Truck probably wouldn't have gotten off the road in the first place, but who knows why it happened.
It's a good possibility.
I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you telling the story. And again, to my parents, I know you're watching and I'm sorry. A lot of people that have never been through something like this say that it gets easier with time. And that's not true. It just, it gets easier to hide the pain. That's all. So once again, thank you for being here. We've got a few more video clips to watch. And then, I'm going to talk about my personal experiences, talk about some statistics, and close the show. So, once again, thanks for watching Funkshop TV right here at fvtv11.org or funkshoptv.com. Stick around. This letter was sent from our friend Kim. When I was 18, I was having a hard time partying a lot and just lost my job, and it was Cinco de Mayo. Me and my friend decided to go downtown Portland. We stopped at the store. We bought 4 40-ounce bottles of beer, 2 for each. When we got downtown, we parked in a parking garage and I chugged my 2 40s within about 15 minutes. She couldn't finish her second one, so I chugged the second half of that. We were planning on being there for hours, so to me, driving shouldn't have been an issue. But for some reason, we got out in the streets and it got boring like mad fast. It wasn't what we thought. So we went back to my car and she said, "You okay to drive?" And I felt fine. The beer hadn't hit me yet, I guess, so I said, "Let's get these empty bottles out of my car in case we get pulled over." We left the garage, started driving down McLaughlin Boulevard, stopped, made a phone call, and asked a friend if we could come over and hang out because I was starting to feel the beer at that point. He said no, so we continued on. 10 minutes later, we got to Oregon City, where I lived at the time. Suddenly, we've seen some guys in a black truck that we went to school with, and they were running from us, wanting to race and mess around. We had seen them earlier downtown. So I was in a 5-speed Honda Civic hatchback, and I can drive, so we started rolling through the streets of town, places I had actually never been. I never wore my seatbelt, and I mean never. But that night I told my friend during the chase, "Put your seatbelt on so we don't get pulled over for something so stupid." Then we turned on a road I now will forever remember as Holly Lane. As we went over a bridge and up a hill through windy roads, I looked at my friends and I said, "If I get pulled over, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass." Because this was your idea to chase them. As I said that, I look up and their taillights had disappeared, and I looked at her and I said, "Where did they go?" And I look up and all I say is, "Oh fuck." Little did I know, their taillights were gone because there was a 10-mile-an-hour corner that they took. I was going at least 110. I know it was at least that. The cop told me later on because that's what my speedometer was stuck on, so he believed I was going even faster. My car went down into a ditch, up in the air, high enough. It turned on its side and the rim of my car got stuck up in the tree, and when the car came down it landed on my left arm. By the way, our friends seen us crash and they were so scared they left the scene, later to find out they thought we were dead. My left ankle has 2 plates and 14 screws in it from getting stuck in between the clutch and the brake, double compound fracture, bones popped out in 2 spots, and they said I would never walk again. I yelled at my friend to get out of the car and go get our friend Larry at her house, a few miles away. I don't know why, but it was that. He was a huge varsity football player and my brain was telling me he could get this car off my arm. Every piece of my car was crunched. The whole hatchback was more in the front, and the car was on its side, one on my arm, and hers was crushed shut. And then 2 guys appeared out of nowhere. Finally, we were able, or she was able, to kick out enough of the broken windshield to get out of the car with the guy's help. One guy took her to get my friend, and the other stayed there and held my hand as I cried for my mom and dad, and he just kept telling me I was going to be alright, not to worry. He was amazing. My friend got back with Larry, and when she did, the guys took off running because sirens were coming finally. That's when all I could do was hear the loudest sound I'd ever heard in my life and felt things dropping in my face and all around me, and they were talking, but I couldn't understand them. So I kept opening and shutting my eyes super fast and realized that it was glass. They were cutting off the whole top of my car to get me out. Finally they did, and I was in and out of consciousness, and all of a sudden I wake up in ICU and I look down and my legs are wrapped up, and it's like 3 times the size it should be, and I look at my arm and nothing. And I'm like, what? Am I confused? Wasn't my leg stuck under the outside of the car? But no. Somehow my arm had just a little mark on it. As my family came in, I just cried and apologized, not even thinking that I had surgery, so the hospital had done a blood alcohol sample. It was 0.36, and of course I had a passenger in my car. So I thank my guardian angels from that night all the time that my friend was not hurt worse, and that she was not a revengeful person. She did not press any kind of charges or admit to anything to the cops at any time. And the hardest part was that she had to go to my parents' house because they didn't know if I was going to survive at first, and tell them at 4 a.m. Pounding on the door, you need to go to OHSU right away. Your daughter has been in an accident and we can't tell you anything. And it also just so happened to land on Mother's Day, which is forever guilt for what I put them through. I still have PTSD over the whole thing. I didn't drink for probably 15 years after. I think I probably have like 2, maybe 3 times since this has happened. And my dad, while at the hospital, the cops came to him and said that he needed to go get my car out of the ditch and the road. And when he went, he didn't come back to the hospital right away. He went to my brother's and knocked on the door. He was sobbing and saying, "You have no idea how lucky we are that your sister is to be alive." The car was demolished and it was towed to our home. Our neighbors and my friends all thought I was dead. They brought flowers and endless things telling my parents how sorry they were, until the word spread that I was alive and in the hospital. After I was out of the hospital, I couldn't walk for a long time. But the cop, I still don't know why he took mercy upon me, but he came to me and said, "I'm going to give you these 2 citations, one for reckless driving and one for speeding for going 110 miles per hour. And I said to him, "Do you know how fast I was going? There were no cops there. How can you give me a ticket?" And that's when I found out, as I said above, that he just said your speedometer was stuck on 110, so we know that you were going faster when you crashed. We just don't know how much faster. But that's the reason I am giving you these citations. I said, "Then why are you?" He looked at me and said, "I can see how much you are hurting emotionally from what happened, and there are things that could come up in the near future about the accident that could get you charged with attempted vehicular manslaughter due to your having a passenger in your car." He never mentioned the drinking or the test from the hospital. He just gave me a look and said, "I'm sure you have heard the rumors of what people have been saying. So as long as I give you the citations, then the case will be closed, and you will not be able to be charged with anything in the future." Then he said, "I truly believe you have learned a lesson and made a mistake you will not repeat. Going to jail is not going to change that." I looked at him crying and just simply gave him a hug and said, "Thank you. I appreciate you doing everything you have done for me." At that time, my dad, also spying in the garage, listening, also came out in tears and also thanked the officer for not charging me with nothing more than these citations. The last thing I will say is things like this do stay with you for years. Like I said, I still have PTSD and terrible nightmares over 20 years later. And not realizing it, over 5 years after the accident, my dad went onto the road when I was in the front seat of the car, and I was instantly paralyzed with fear. I could not move and the tears were shooting out of my eyes, and both my parents were looking like, "What's wrong?" And I couldn't speak or move, just shaking uncontrollably. And then it hit my dad once he noticed the 10-mile-an-hour corner wreckage site, and he said, "Oh my God, look where we are. Baby, I'm so sorry." I didn't even realize. So the effects do last for years, whether you hurt yourself, a friend, family. There are always more people than you realize affected by your decisions. Remember that before you get behind the wheel of your car, I was one of the luckiest ones out there. I did not hurt anyone bad physically except myself, but I could have killed anyone on the road that night. So that's my story, 22 years later.
I made the choice to drive under the influence twice. The first time I crashed my motorcycle and I almost died. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital and about 6 months recovering before I could walk normally again. The actual recovery has been probably a little bit over a year and a half. 2 years after that, I decided to drive under the influence again. This time I was in a car. It was a little piece of shit. It was the only thing I could afford after the motorcycle wreck, and I had a passenger with me. And after both incidents, I probably ended up owing about enough to purchase a small house, medical bills, property damage, and court fees. I've spent a total of 6 days in Clark County Jail. That's not even... I got lucky, you know. It was I got off light for both incidents, being at about twice the legal limit on both of them. Driving under the influence is not something to be taken lightly. The way I feel about it is that those nights I took my desires and put them ahead of everybody else's on the road, everybody else's around me, and all my friends and family. And I'm left with having to rebuild everything that I lost, which is substantial. The stress from the financial burden, the physical burdens involved in the wreck, the stigma of being labeled that guy that will drive after he's drunk. It's it could have possibly led to you know, the loss of basically every important relationship I've had, because I was that guy that you couldn't tell me how to do anything, because I'm in control of every last one of my actions, including getting into the car if I feel like I can drive. And because of that, I always have a designated driver now. It's not that difficult. It only requires a little bit of a loss of control. And it can save the world. Don't drink and drive.
Hi, my name is Missy, and I want to share with you a little bit about a very special friend of mine. One of my dear friends growing up, Mary Lynn Hammond, was such a wonderful girl. She had such a huge heart. She loved Jesus. It showed in her life and her actions, and she was always so happy and just wonderful. I can't think of a bad thing to say about her. Well, one day she made a decision to get in a car with somebody who had been drinking, and that decision took her life. And that decision hurt a lot of people, her family, her friends, her acquaintances. I just want you guys to please all think about how one simple decision you make can change everything for so many people. And whether it's drinking and driving, or just getting in a car with somebody who's been drinking, or drugs, or anything. Think about your decisions you make and how it will affect not just you for that second, but how it will affect or could affect so many people for the rest of their lives too.
Big man, baker's man. Make me a cake as fast as you can. Roll it, pat it, and mark it with the beats for baby and me. Let's get together and roll down. Okay. Lay down. You can lay down on each other. Oh, hang on, I want to hug me. Hug me, Misty. Wait, I need
Come on, Missy. Oh, everybody's having a little fun. Say hi. On the high side,
I'm Heidi. James. And we encourage you guys to come to Go to Skate because there's a guy Greg here. He's a really good speaker and he says everything he says you can like relate to it. And it's changed my life because I made new clothes.
Because what?
Because I made new clothes. And you know, heaven's not with the pearly gates and all that stuff. It looks like this. Except it's like perfect, like that grass would be green. All be green. And the rocks would all be like perfect in line and there'd be no dust. It's really cool. And Great Escape is fun because you come here and everybody accepts everything.
Saber.
And you can get popped for a quarter at the end of the week.
Did you ski this week?
Yeah, I entered two. And I tried skiing, but I couldn't get up. I entered two, you know, like, fell off really bad. I can't see it like that.
Welcome back. Once again, thanks for watching. So that girl that was talking in that video and laughing and rolling around in the snow, she used to be one of my best friends. And she still is. But I can't call her anymore to get some sisterly advice. I can't ever take any girlfriends out to lunch to let me know if I should date her or not. She was a best friend to a lot of people. At her service, I think I heard there was like 1,200 people that showed up. People were parking along the roads across the street from the church, getting towed by the par 3 golf course that used to be in Brush Prairie, and they didn't even care. They said, we'll just pay it and get it later. My sister meant a lot to a lot of people. And I know that there are a lot of people that have lost their lives due to somebody's decision to be drunk and behind the wheel. And those lives mean a lot to a lot of people. So think twice. It's the message of this whole show. Think twice, please. I did invite my parents to be here, but it's tough. I've been a DJ as long as I can remember, and I do weddings, and every time I see the bride escort her father to the dance floor, I think of the pain. The pain that my father feels because he'll never be able to do that with his little girl. I see my sister's friends at places that I DJ at, and I just wish that my sister would walk through the door. She used to come out to places that I DJ'd at. She was one of my biggest supporters. Stevie Wonder's Superstitious was her song, and I think that at her funeral ceremony was probably the only time that that song has ever been played in a church. But we got away with it. because she was a special person. She would go and grab people by the hand and drag them out to the dance floor if I couldn't figure out how to do it myself. When she was killed, she had a daughter that was 16 months old. People constantly ask me, where's her daughter? Even to this day. She's with her dad. Wasn't the same guy that took her life. He's done a great job. Larry, thank you. Thank you for stepping up unexpectedly and being a full-time parent. Done a wonderful job raising Macy, and I'm sure you will continue to. I commend you for that. So my mom and dad were at my house today, and they were thinking about coming down, and Mom started crying, and she said, I do have something to say. There's not a single day that goes by that she doesn't wake up and the first thing that comes to her mind is she can't talk to her little girl. It's been almost 13 years. And every single day for the past 13 years, the first thing one of the greatest women that walked this earth thinks about is she cannot talk to her little girl. That pisses me off. This incident has created a lot of anger, fighting personal demons, trying to control my own thoughts and emotions. So far, I've done a good job, obviously, because I'm still here talking to you. Thanks to the support of the good people that I have in my life. People that were like Mary Lynn. So, if you're going to go out drinking, by all means, have a good time. But do it the right way. Be responsible about it. If you don't have any friends that look out for you enough to come and get you if you call them and say I've been drinking, so I shouldn't drive, you should find some new friends. Because there's plenty of good people in the world. So, I'm going to talk about some statistics, give away some numbers in case you think that you have a drinking problem or you want to just talk to somebody and see if that you should get some help. If you've driven drunk more than once and you wake up the next day or 2 days later and you're like, man, why did I do that? But then you do it again a few months later, you should probably get some help. There's a lot of people that only got one chance that aren't here anymore, or that were affected by somebody else's decision that aren't here anymore. I've been to way too many funerals because of a decision that somebody made to drive drunk. I don't want to go there anymore. I've lost friends because they want to party and they know that I hate it when they drive drunk. So they won't come and support me anymore. They're not friends. I have nightmares of drowning on a regular basis because that's how my sister died. And every time I see my mom shed a tear, I want to put hands on the person that took my sister's life. You're lucky it's 2015, and I'd go to jail for doing so. That's all I'm going to say about that. I like living, and I like life, and I like loving the people around me. I like loving the world because my sister loved the world. I was raised right. And because of that, I'm going to control myself. But to the guy that took my sister's life, you should count your blessings. So, by the numbers, an average drunk driver has driven 87 times before their first arrest. Can you believe that? 87 times before the first arrest.
That's the scary part about it. You know, that's when you asked me how many drunk driving calls I've been on.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a fatal. It doesn't really have to be anything major. Something minor. Driving in a ditch, hitting a sign, something. Just because somebody has taken that initiative to drink and drive. It is one of the most leading killers out there.
No, clearly, I understand that. I can't. It takes you 87 times driving drunk to get pulled over. And then how many people after their DUI still, they get a second DUI or a third DUI or a fourth DUI?
You know, the laws.
Get help.
The laws and stuff. You know, and I want to commend you, and especially the Funkshop crew, for doing this. This is something that sometimes is just pushed aside, you know, and people talk and, hey, you shouldn't drink and drive. Hey, you shouldn't do this. You know, we go to schools and we talk to, you know, elementary kids, all the way to elementary, and say, hey, look, this is the deal. You know how many times they come up and say, oh, you know, my dad, you know, my mom does this, and he's like, you wonder, and it takes just that once, and you don't even have to be the person that's drinking. You can be a victim, and literally it just takes once, and it takes one beer to be intoxicated, and that's it. They try to make it, you know, 0.008 is the legal limit, blah blah.
0.08.
That's, you know, that's one beer. You drink one beer, that is it. Well, and then there's 2 or 3, and there's 4. Oh, I'm okay, you know, I'm good to go. I'm still dancing, you know. And you get out there and you don't realize that cold air hits you. And
well, a lot of people think if I eat food, I'll sober up. If I drink water, I'll sober up. It's not true.
Not true.
The only thing that can sober you up is time. Sleep won't do it. Eating won't do it. Drinking water won't do it. It might make you feel better, kind of at the time. But as far as your sensory perception goes, it doesn't change anything. Nothing changes but time.
But I do want to commend you for bringing awareness to people that, you know, might not know.
I try to. Especially around June and November.
It's understandable.
I should be celebrating a birthday this week, not mourning the death. Motorcycle riders are nearly twice as likely to be driving while drunk than passenger car drivers. I find that one is scary to me.
Very.
Scary. Does that mean motorcycle riders just drink more? I don't get it. The highest percentage of drivers in fatal crashes who have blood alcohol levels of 0.8 or higher is for drivers ages 21 to 24.
And just think, graduation just happened 2 weeks ago.
Right.
For a lot of students around, especially in the Clark County area.
21-year-olds, we've seen them in bars. They don't necessarily know how to know their limits.
Mm-hmm.
The older that we get, the more that we learn our limits, but hopefully we get to that age. You're not going to get there if you're going to continue drinking and driving. You're going to kill yourself or kill somebody else. So,
and a lot of times, whatever the people that don't get hurt are the people that are drunk.
Right.
That's, you know, because your body is so...
The person that they hit is the people that they kill.
Yeah, your body is so numb that it just goes to a limp stage.
Right. Right. And all of these statistics are only 4 months old. This report came out 4 months ago, so they're not old stuff. It has gotten better thanks to organizations like MADD. You can go on MADD's website, madd.org, that's Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and there's a whole slew of information, resources. Just read through some stuff, and it'll definitely make you think twice about drinking and driving. Hopefully. If it doesn't, you need help. In 2008, 11,773 people were killed in alcohol-impaired driving crashes. 2008, 1 year, 11,773 people. Lately on social media, we've seen a whole lot of stuff go viral about police brutality, racial incidents, which is all horrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's justified. But how come you don't see people talk about the importance of sober driving very often?
Well, those commercials come on at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Social media. Anything talk about it.
I'm talking about like you and me and our friends sharing. You know, these 3 girls kicked in the door of another girl's house because she was a rival gangbanger, and they beat her up when her parents weren't home. And that video has over 2 million views. But I rarely see anybody talking about make sure that you have a sober driver. And I commend the people that have. Thank you. Whether or not you're thinking about me when you do it, it doesn't matter. Because 11,773 people just in 1 year, that's way more than the number of people that got beat up by cops.
And that's in 2008.
That's just in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Imagine what it is now.
Right.
Drinking is not ever going to go away.
So I challenge somebody, if you can pick a year in our lifetime where police brutality has injured 11,773 people, it may not be on the records, but I don't think the numbers are close. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and I'll admit it, but I doubt it. 1 in 3 people will be involved in an alcohol-related crash in their lifetime. Have you been involved in an alcohol-related crash? Have you?
I have not.
Well, almost 3 years ago, me and Nick were on our way to Seattle because I was going to do some work at a concert up there for Big Crit and Tito Lopez. I was excited. I was real excited because I don't get to do Seattle stuff as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. So Nick and I were cruising up I-5, going through Tacoma traffic at about 5 p.m. And I think we were doing 5 to 10 miles an hour. And we got slammed into the back by a drunk doing about 55. On impact, I thought we were dead. Like, I couldn't breathe. I was freaking out. I will admit, I was hysterical. And then as soon as I could catch my breath again, I was hurt. We were both injured. We both sustained neck and back injuries. Nothing life-threatening, but I couldn't help but crack jokes with the paramedics when they got there. Because I know it can't be easy for paramedics to pull a 300-plus pound dude out of a car and put him on a gurney and then wheel him into an ambulance on the side of rush hour traffic. So I was just trying to make them laugh. But I was the one of us 3 that was in one just over the last 3 years, within the last 3 years. And it
and no fault of your own.
It had a huge impact on our lives. I had to stop working for a couple months. I was out of work, got way behind on my bills just because I couldn't carry my turntables. It sucked. I stopped going to physical therapy because I needed the money to pay bills. And as a result, my back is always going to hurt. I have to sit like this for hours doing my job on a regular basis. And by the time I get home, I just want to lay in bed and not move. It hurts. I know Nick's still dealing with a lot of pain. And it's never going away. So this year, 10,839 people will die in drunk driving crashes. So the number has come down since 2008. But this year, 10,839 people will die in drunk driving crashes. That's 1 every 50 minutes. So we started this show at 9 o'clock. At least 1 person has died. Maybe 2. Obviously, it's on average, but 1 person every 50 minutes dies because of a drunk driving crash. In 2008, alcohol-impaired driving fatalities accounted for 32% of the total motor vehicle traffic fatalities in the United States. Over a quarter of them, almost a third. Am I doing the math right on that, Jordan? A third would be 33.3333, correct? So 32% of the total motor vehicle traffic fatalities in the United States were alcohol related. Drunk driving costs each adult in this country almost $500 per year. Do you drive drunk?
I have not.
Do you drive drunk?
Not anymore.
I don't drive drunk.
See, to a drunk person, we don't actually really, like, they don't think they're actually drunk. Like, every time I got behind the wheel, I would tell people, I'm like, oh, I'm the best driver when I'm drunk.
I would. I'm glad I don't know you then, bro.
It was, like I said, to me, I wasn't drunk. Like, to me, in my head, I felt once I got behind the wheel, I sobered up.
And so far, those numbers, like the 10,000 and the every 50 minutes, that's deaths. That's not
Getting
fender
hurt.
benders or that's not going to the hospital. That's deaths.
The scary part about it is that when I was younger, 21, even younger and that or whatever, you go to a party and you see your buddies drink. And mind you, when I was younger, I might have had a couple cocktails. But I've never actually taken that step to actually drive drunk. I've seen people do it, but I've never realized the outcome of it until I actually become part of the fire department. And then you actually get the hands-on and you actually get to see what the results and stuff are. That, I think, when you were talking about earlier, what's the most impact? Again, it's the result of what could have not happened.
How many times have you responded to an incident and found one of your friends? Somebody you know or a family member?
There's been a couple. One was a kid that I went to high school with. Had just got a brand new car. His dad bought him a brand new car. They celebrated and went out and partied and wrecked it. He went home, thought that his dad was going to get really, really mad. Mind you, it wasn't his fault, but he had been drinking. And the other actually driver was drunk too. And this is another response that we went to. We were called to a basically a hanging. He actually went down to the barn of his family's house and hung himself because he thought that his dad was going to beat him for wrecking his car. He had it less than 12 hours.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And his dad said, it's just a car.
See, a lot of people don't realize that they go out and have a good time and they get drunk, so it makes them easier to talk to other people. It brings down lowers inhibitions. You can dance and not care about what anybody thinks about you as long as you have that buzz. But they don't realize that alcohol is a depressant.
Yep.
So when people are upset, they had a breakup and they want to go get plowed, you're not doing any good. You're not helping anything because alcohol is a depressant. You're just going to make it worse, and then you're going to feel like hell the next morning. It's been tough to do a whole episode without cursing. So
Did good.
Justin didn't. He broke once. But that's all right. Every minute, one person is injured from an alcohol-related crash.
Every minute.
Every minute. So almost 80 people have been injured from an alcohol-related crash since we started this episode.
It's crazy. Again,
It's disgusting.
like the statistics. It's well over 100.
Drinking and driving is more prevalent during late overnight hours, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. At that time, approximately 4.8% of all drivers are over the legal alcohol limit. That's compared to just 0.2% during the 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. morning hours. The rate of alcohol impairment among drivers involved in fatal crashes was 4 times higher at night than during the day, 36% versus 9%. The latest drunk driving facts show the number of drunk drivers in the United States has decreased an estimate 71% since 1970. Thanks to organizations like MAD. I'm sure MAD had a lot to do with that, and I appreciate it. Very thankful. But it's also people like us reminding your friends, people like you, telling your friends, don't drive drunk, that's stupid. Let's walk, let's call a cab, be a buddy, be a friend. Don't let your friends drive drunk. 71% since 1970. That's a lot. The federal blood alcohol level regulation is currently set to 0.08 BAC, but many states are considering a 0.05 BAC, especially for repeat offenders. So, I won't be mad. I know you can have some cough syrup and it'll show up in your BAC. Sometimes it'll rate it a 0.05. Certain mouthwashes will do the same thing, but I think the cop that pulls you over can tell the difference between couple shots and mouthwash.
And please don't think that gum or cologne or
Sucking on a penny.
yeah is gonna
Mythbusters,
hide it
actually.
because I mean
Yeah, I saw the Mythbusters busted the myth
Yeah,
that sucking
it,
on a penny makes your VAC go down. So
because it comes out of your pores.
Just so everybody does know, though, last week I was not anywhere messed up on those Jello shots. The lights started making me sweat a lot, so I just started getting really tired. I just started thinking about that because I know somebody mentioned it to me about doing this. Somebody, I don't... whatever. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, they said, you guys are going to be doing a drink and driving episode, and last week you just were, getting all messed up on gummy bear Jello shots. I'm just like, it's a good point. I was not drunk, nowhere near it. Like, I was still, like I could catch a fly. Like I'm still there, but
You could catch a fly?
it's just time.
I'm trying to say that's how sober, I was. Like I could, but yeah, you definitely.
But you're surrounded by good people though.
Yeah.
That wouldn't allow you to be.
And,
Oh yeah, I
and-
wouldn't let
and-
him drive.
And we
No
hung
way.
we hung out quite a bit before we actually left. So.
And you stopped eating those things way before halfway through the show.
Yeah,
I know. So, if you think that you have a problem with drinking or drugs or anything, if you're in Clark County, you can call 360-397-8030. These are all counseling center numbers. Do the right thing if you think you have a problem before you take somebody's life. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I would give up every single thing that I have, including my life, and turn my life into God tomorrow if I could spend one more night with my sister. At the end of the show, there's going to be an audio clip of my father from my sister's service. And he says something close to the same lines. I miss her more than I've ever missed anything in my life. And before this happened, you think that's never going to happen to me. Oh, my friend's mom died of cancer, but my mom's never going to get cancer and die, so I'm going to tell them I feel sorry for you and I know what you're going through. I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times I know what you're going through. You don't. Unless you've lost a sibling to a drunk driver, you have no idea what I'm going through. I appreciate your sentiment. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate your thoughts. But you don't know. And every situation's different. I was probably a lot closer to my sister than a lot of people are. A lot of brothers and sisters are. There's been nothing in my life that has changed my life more than losing my sister. I wish I could go back 13 years and be who I used to be. But I'm not that same person anymore. And a lot of times I lay in bed at night and I wonder if it's gotten worse over the years. Like I just keep losing more and more of myself because I'm sucked into this nightmare that I can't shake. Nationally, if you think you have a problem with drinking or drugs, call the national hotline. Get some help. It's 844-227-0748. Or you can go to www.my99problems.com/addiction. And that's not a joke. When I first heard My 99 Problems, I was like, 99 problems, but what ain't one? So if, does it make sense? Because if you have a whole lot of problems and you drink, stopping drinking might cut a lot of those problems out of your life. The Crisis Hotline National for Alcohol and Drug Abuse is 1-800-784-6776. Recovery World is 1-800-662-HELP, HELP. Do you have anything you want to add? I
just was sitting over just going through a whole bunch of shit in my head. Remember the first time the very first time I was going through a breakup, this about over a year ago. You called me up. You're the only person on my friends list. Friends list and Facebook, whatever, just only friend. But you're the only one that reached out to me to come hang out. You said we're going up to the bar. We're at the spot. I'm with a bunch of people from my squad. Do you want to come out? And I said, yeah, sure. And at the time, nobody knew it, but I took a bunch of, I forgot that I had taken some anxiety medication before you hit me up when I went out there. And I had one beer. And we hung out there for a while. So that one beer should have been out of my system, but that one beer and it mixed with the medicine. If you take medication, do not drink with it. Like, I don't give a shit. Crap. Sorry. I don't give a crap what kind of medicine it is. Do not drink while you take the medicine, because that drive home when I left there was the scariest thing, because I just do not remember half the time getting home. I just remember
now I
driving.
Feel guilty.
You didn't know. You just thought I was tired. But I drove home, and I just remember I was falling asleep at the wheel, and I just kept waking up on the other side of the road. And after that, I have not gotten behind the wheel after drinking. Like I said, you guys didn't know.
Yeah, I barely knew you then.
Yeah, I had one beer, and I didn't tell anybody I was on medication. I forgot I took it until, of course, after I started drinking. But yeah, no, nobody knew. But
crazy.
Just don't drink and you're on medication. That too, you know.
Don't drink and drive. Don't drink if you're on. Don't mix
Yeah.
the two. Definitely don't mix the two.
Definitely don't mix the two.
It's a bad idea. Cocktail for disaster. Anything you want to add?
Just be safe. You know, listen to Biggs, listen to Justin. If you do have a problem, don't be a statistic. Right? That word?
Statistic.
There you go. It is emotional, not only for families and friends. It is emotional and stuff for rescue officers and rescue personnel and stuff that go to these scenes. This was a very, very hard episode when Biggs asked me to come on to come and do, because 13 years later, this is something I do remember. I've been on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls, and to have something stick in your mind so well is very emotional. And it wasn't even personal to me.
Right.
It was just another call for us.
We didn't know each other 13 years ago.
Right. But be careful. Be safe. If you do have a problem, just, call someone. There are, companies out there, taxi cabs, stuff like that. Especially, when the holidays come and July 4th is coming up. Everybody wants to drink, have fun, party. Just be careful. Be safe. Please, please be safe. And watch each other. So.
Josh, I appreciate you being here and talking about not only my sister's incident, but just your experience from the rescuer side of things. I see things from people walking out of the bar and stumbling into their cars and driving away.
We see the aftermath.
I'm constantly telling people not to drink and drive, but I never really paid attention to the statistics until we started putting together the stuff for the show, and it just blew my mind. It's scary.
Very.
And I'll be the first person to say that if I'm driving home from a club, or if I'm riding with somebody that's driving home from a club at 2:30 in the morning and somebody's swerving, I'm a snitch. So if you got a problem with that, come see me. I'll be the first person to call if somebody's driving drunk. I'm a snitch. When it comes to a drunk driver that can endanger your family's life, or your friend's life, or your life, best believe I'm going to do what I can to put an end to it. Because there's been so many times where I've just wanted to bump a bumper and force somebody off the road. So
That one call could save someone's life.
I don't have a problem calling 911 if I see a car swerving.
Every time we're driving.
I don't care about the reputation it might give me. Yeah, I'm a DJ in the rap world, and you can call me a snitch all day long. I'm okay with that. So, we got a few more video segments to get into. Thanks, Josh, for being here. Justin. Thank you to Sean for putting together all the video clips. Drop D and Ginger for sitting in the booth and putting up with us. For Vancouver Television, I'm Biggs. Thanks for tuning in. Don't drive drunk. Please. Mary Lynn, I love you. This was written on Friday, November 29th, 2002. There are far too many beautiful things to say about Mary Lynn Hammond to be expressed in one article. Those of you who are touched, even briefly, by this kind soul will know what we are talking about. One of the first things that come to mind is her caring and nurturing role as a mother. Mary had a 19-month-old daughter, Macy Lynn Hammond Jones. Mary cared for Macy more than anything in this world, which is hard to imagine considering how much compassion she had for everyone else. Her good nature lives today, made so wonderfully evident when we see little Macy wiping the tears from Grandma's cheeks, not even knowing why those tears fall. To her father Tip, her mother Fran, and her brothers Paul, Daniel, and Mark, she was truly the glue that held the family together. Also very special to Mary were her grandmothers, Gladys Sackerson and Mitsu Hammond, and her many aunts, uncles, and cousins. Perhaps a bit more thoughtful and organized than the rest of us, she was always the one to get us together for quality time. She made it that, quality time. Through her vibrant spirit and warm sense of humor, Mary made us laugh and share together like nobody else could. Today Macy does the same thing for us, giving us the best possible reason to laugh and play and share our love with one another, not even knowing that she is now the glue that holds our family together. Mary wasn't just a friend, but a best friend to so many people. She was always accepting and always a good listener. Through the hard times, she was persistent with her support, and through the good times, she was consistent with her love. Macy is the best reflection of this, always a little play partner and giving hugs to whoever needs one, not even knowing what a friend she is. Mary lived vicariously by singing and dancing, gratefully by enjoying the outdoors, and selflessly by giving so much for her family and friends. Mary loved life and taught many of us to live life, even in these hard times. It's not hard to deal with the legacy she left behind, a legacy that will someday live to know and fulfill her true potential. A 1995 Evergreen High School graduate, Mary Lynn Hammond, died Saturday, November 23, 2002 in a vehicle accident near Washougal. She was 25. Ms. Hammond worked at Lighthouse Financial Group in Vancouver for 2 years before she took a job as a loan processor at Bridgeport Lending 2 months ago. She was born June 22, 1977 in Long Beach, California, and lived nearly all of her life in Clark County. From the Columbian, Tuesday, November 26, 2002. Left Behind, A Young Mother Is Gone, by John Branton and Stephanie Thompson, Columbian staff writers. Sheriff's deputies spent Monday sifting through the odd story of how Mary Hammond was left behind in her boyfriend's pickup after he crashed down a 75-foot embankment into the Washougal River. Hammond, 25, a single mother with a young daughter, drowned at a place in the river known as the Big Eddy. She suffered only minor injuries from the crash, a medical examiner's investigation said Monday. Sheriff's deputies said her boyfriend, 26-year-old Ryan Lee Moore, was found walking soaking wet along Washougal River Road right after the 10:30 p.m. Saturday crash. A high school acquaintance, David Gorley, said he spotted Moore and stopped. Moore told him he had just crashed his pickup into the river. Moore assured him several times that there was no one else in the vehicle, Clark County Sheriff's Deputy Greg Cheney said in his report. The report says Gorley gave Moore a ride to his nearby home, then returned to the accident scene and told officers where to find Moore. Meanwhile, rescuers pulled the late model Toyota Tacoma from the river and found Hammond in the passenger seat. At Moore's home just across the Skamania County border, Cheney said he went inside and found wet jeans and a shoe on the floor and some blood. Cheney said Moore was in bed lying under the covers with a .45 caliber Ruger handgun. Cheney ordered Moore to drop the gun and Moore pointed it at his own face. "I think I killed my girlfriend," Moore said, according to Cheney. Cheney said Moore put the gun on the headboard. Cheney and a Camas firefighter then struggled with Moore and got him under control. Moore told officers he and Mary Hammond had been drinking at Smead's Tavern in Washougal. Moore's blood alcohol measured .17, more than twice the legal limit of intoxication in Washington, according to tests taken that night at his house. The blood was sent to a lab for more exact determination. Moore said he could not remember why he crashed. He only recalled being in the water and flagging someone down on the road, according to Cheney's report. Sheriff Sergeant Craig Randall said Monday investigators had unearthed no evidence to support the theory he voiced Sunday that Moore was suicidal before the accident. "He appears to have drifted off the roadway for reasons we don't know," Randall said. What were his intentions prior to the accident? We may find out as the investigation unfolds. Moore was treated for minor cuts and scrapes and taken to the Clark County Jail on suspicion of vehicular homicide in Hammond's death. He made a first appearance Monday in Superior Court where Judge James Ruley set bail at $50,000. Moore's attorney, Jim McMullen of Vancouver, said Moore will appear in court Wednesday for a release hearing and possible arraignment. Moore works as a machinist for Tidal Corporation in Camas. Members of Hammond's close-knit family said she worked as a loan processor in a financial business. She was separated from her daughter's father, Larry Jones, and lived in a Hazeldale apartment. Family members said Hammond loved music, dancing, and being outdoors. Her daughter Macy is 19 months old. She was beautiful on the outside and even more beautiful on the inside, said her father, Tip Hammond of the Five Corners area. She loved music and she loved her daughter, said her best friend Amanda Morris. She was very responsible and very organized. She grew up in Clark County and graduated in 1995 from Evergreen High School, family members said. On Monday, Mary Hammond's family and friends planned her funeral and ways to raise money for Macy.
Will I dance for you, Jesus, or will I just bow down and pray? I can only imagine. Isn't that how the song goes? Well, I guess Mary Lynn was both. She's probably doing both those activities right now, or at least it's on her agenda daily, because she trusted Jesus as her Savior and she loves to dance. I want to thank you all for being here. Many of us have put our trust in God, that He has prepared for us a better place than where we are at right now. And I know with confidence that that's where my daughter Mary Lynn is. A place, as my friend Alan reminded me yesterday, where there are no tears, death, mourning, crying, or pain. We're told in Revelation 21:4. I know the last thing Mary would want is for people to argue about beliefs here today. So, for those who may not know, I'm Mary's father, and on behalf of myself, my wife, and my 3 sons, I would like to thank you all, family, friends, church family, and extended family, for your kindness, prayers, and support in this time of sorrow and grief that my family and I are going through. This time is for sharing, but I really can't put into words how much joy my little girl brought me in the 25 and a half years she was with us. And every day I pray for the rapture to come. Sorry, folks, but it's either that or, there's 2 ways I'm going to be able to see her again. It's either the rapture or when God takes me. So, but it's in God's time. I know that. So that I can hug her and kiss her again. But for now, since I am her dad, I'm going to slide in the role of father for a few minutes. She probably won't like it, but she's not supposed to like everything I do. So, to all of you here, family and friends and everyone, I love you with the love of the Lord. To quote a song my friend Mark Kelly likes to lead us in. Thank you, Mark, for introducing us to that song. Most, if not all of you, had read the newspaper articles that have hit the newsstands in the past week, so you know. Indications are that alcohol may have been involved in the accident in a big way. The trials in the coming months will verify whether this is true or not. But for now, I can't help but think this terrible tragedy could have been avoided if better choices were made. But we all make bad choices in our life, at least on occasion. Nobody's perfect, though we can choose to be forgiven. Amen to that. I would like to plead with all of you, my family and friends, that if there are any here who might even suspect that they have personal issues with alcohol or other substance abuse, and you probably know in your heart who you are, please get help. Help starts with prayer and ends with prayers of thanks. And in between, help comes from people with compassion and love whom God has put in place to help you get through this. I know, because in 1991, through the strength from God and the prayers of people who love me, thanks. Thank you for your prayers. You probably didn't even know what you were praying. Thank you very much. I was able to turn my back on 20 years of bad choices, and am a lot happier for it today.